Hi parents, this is Miss Douthit just going over some details about Renaissance Place, hopefully making things a little bit more clear for you, and also going over maybe any misconceptions that you might have or any questions that you might have. For second quarter, we have started Renaissance Place quizzes. Throughout this video, you will hear me refer to Renaissance Place as RP, and sometimes I do slip up and sometimes I do say AR instead. AR just stands for Accelerated Reader. That is the program within Renaissance Place. So all of them mean the same thing. So it's Renaissance Place, RP, and AR. It's all just the program that we use where students take a quiz on a book that they read to earn points. Students came home with a question and answer page last week, a little Q&A page, going over some commonly asked questions that I get for RP, but I also wanted to make a video to review it so we can hopefully help with any questions or concerns that you have. Students have a 5-point goal for the second quarter. This goal will go up every quarter. So, second quarter, it's 5 points. Third quarter, it's going to be 10. And then fourth quarter, it is going to be 15 points. Students can get more points than that. They don't have to stop at 5. We do class competitions where students will compete with each other to see who can get the most. But I just want you to know that they only have to get 5, and it is a part of their reading grade. It does impact their reading grade. So please keep that in mind throughout second quarter that if they do not reach their 5-point goal in second quarter, it will impact their reading grade. They will have until December 19th to reach this goal. That is the Friday before winter break. I would aim to have it done the Friday before that. That way, that whole last week leading up to winter break, students do not have to even think about Renaissance Place. That whole last week leading up to winter break is going to be very fun, filled with a lot of fun activities. We definitely don't want students stressing that week and forcing themselves to read, to then take quizzes and earn their points. Like, we don't want that to really happen. So I would aim to have the 5 points done the week before the 19th. That way, it's not even something that has to cross their mind that last week leading up to break. Renaissance Place is not meant to be challenging for students or add a lot to their already busy days and their already busy schedules. RP is an app through Clever where students can take a short quiz on a book that they recently read and earn points. The shorter the book, the shorter the questions. If it is a short picture book, it's only going to be 5 questions. If it is a chapter book, it is going to be 10 questions. If your child has ever earned a brag tag, if your child has ever come home with one of the little metal tags for the battle books, then they have taken an RP test. They've taken a Renaissance Place test before. Quizzes on Renaissance Place are not meant to be challenging or difficult. They're not asking fast style questions. It's not supposed to be a really difficult thing for students. RP quizzes will ask students very simple who, what, when, where, why, how, and they all focus on recall, just what happened in the story. It is nothing where students have to think very deep. It is just recalling what they read. If a student understood the book that they read, the quiz is very easy. The only reason a student would not pass an RP quiz is if the child did not fully read the book, which happens quite frequently. A lot of times, students will rush through the book or they'll think that they can read 3 quarters of the book and then they get bored and they want to skip the ending and they think, oh, I'm fine, I can just take the quiz on it. And then they realize, oh no, it's going to ask me questions about the entire book and they don't pass it. I also have students who will try to read really challenging books because the more challenging a book is, the more points it's worth, but they also will not understand the book that they're reading. And if they don't understand it, they're not going to pass the quiz because they won't understand the questions. We want students reading books that are on their reading level so they pass the quizzes and earn their points. Let's go over the points. So we'll use Paralit Price Manor, which is the book that we're reading right now in class. It is this one. We're about halfway through at this point. Paralit Price Manor is one of the SSYRA books. I will read a few of these out loud to the students throughout the school year. We'll see, how much time we have to do it. Right now, I thought this one was perfect for Halloween. This book, Parallel Price Manor, it's a pretty thick book. It is on a 5.5 reading level, which does correlate with about a mid fifth grade level. There are definitely some challenging vocabulary words in this book for these fourth graders, and it is worth 8 points. It is worth 8. So some students are waiting until I finish this book because I am going to allow them to take an independent RP test on it. We're not doing the RP test together because I want to see how students are paying attention and listening, um, and how much they're understanding of the book that we're reading. So we're not doing it together. They will have the chance to take an independent RP test on it and potentially earn the 8 points. Some students will earn those 8 points or earn 7 points if they get a little bit less than a 100%, or earn 6 points. The less your score is, the less points you earn. And then if a student earns anything less than a 60% on a quiz, they don't earn anything. They don't earn any points. So if a student is to score a 50% on Parallel Price Manor, they will not earn any of the 8 points. They will not earn 4 points just because they got a 50%. They failed the test at a 50%, that is an F, so they don't earn any of the points. I will have quite a few students who take the test. They will earn more than their 5 point goal on it, and they will be fine for the rest of the quarter. They won't have to worry about reading any additional books if they don't want to. I do have plenty of students who are already taking RP quizzes because they're wanting to compete with their other classmates and they're wanting to earn the most in the class. I did show students last Tuesday how to get into Renaissance Place on Clever. I did show students how to search for books, and then I did also show students where to find the reading level and where to find how many points a book is worth. The reading level on Renaissance Place does appear as ATOS, ATOS, in all capital letters. It says ATOS level, and then it'll say a number next to it. We want students reading books that are between a 3.0 and a 5.5. Now, students are welcome to read any books they want below a 3.0 and above a 5.5. I just will not allow students to take a quiz on that book. Anything below a 3.0 is going into a second grade level, and students who are in fourth grade don't need to be earning points on books that are on a second grade level because they're going to get 100s on every single one. It's not a challenge for them. And then anything above a 5.5 can get into really complicated territory. Some students are definitely ready for a 5.5 or higher, but majority of students in fourth grade are not. And the chances of them not passing that test and essentially wasting their time reading a book that didn't make sense to them to then not pass a test and not earn the points towards it can just be a little bit frustrating for students. I see that frustration every year when I allow them to read a challenging book that is above a 5.5 level. Again, some students are ready for it. If you really, really have a fantastic book that you're going to sit down and read with your child, or you know that they are capable of reading it, and it's maybe a 5.6 or a 5.7, maybe a 5.8, just have your child come show me the book and we can have a conversation about it and we can talk about it. I have no issues with having a talk with a child and approving them to read a book. But I definitely do not want a child to come up to me randomly and ask me to sign off on a quiz that is a 5.9 reading level when I had no idea they were going to be reading a book that was that challenging. So if you do have a book that ends up being much higher than a 5.5 or anything higher than a 5.5, definitely let me know. Just encourage your child to come talk to me about it so we can have a conversation about it. I always recommend to students that they check the reading level and they check the points before they even begin reading a book if they want to earn points on it. Now, obviously, students, there's going to be plenty of students who on Parallel Price Manor get their points, and they're not going to want to take another Renaissance Place test until after December for quarter 3, which is fine. But if your child is wanting to do the competition aspect of it, or if they don't pass Parallel Price Manor and they still have to get their 5 points, I highly, highly, highly recommend that your child goes on to Renaissance Place once they've picked a book, goes on to Renaissance Place, searches for the book, and double checks, okay, is it between a 3.0 and a 5.5 level? Okay, it is. And how many points is it worth? Graphic novels are usually only worth 1 or 2 points. And then again, the harder the book, the longer the book, the more points that book is going to be worth. So definitely have your child double check the book before they even begin reading it. That way you don't run into any wasted time issues or scrambling issues or frustration issues because they spent time reading an entire book only to realize that there is no quiz on it, because that does happen sometimes, especially with newer books. Sometimes there is no Renaissance Place quiz on it where they can earn points, or it was too hard of a level, or it was too easy of a level, or I spent a lot of time on this book and it was only worth 2 points. So definitely double check those points and double check that level before you even begin reading a book. And as students, as much as I will tell them that, they will need that reminder from you as well. This guarantees that there is a quiz on that book and that the reading level falls within that 3.0 to 5.5 range. And not every book has a correlating quiz, so it's always a good idea to check before reading if that is a book that they want to earn points on. Sorry, I have a little script to keep me on track, but I'm a little bit better at just talking towards the camera about this. If students are waiting to take their first Renaissance Place quiz on Paralit Price Manor, this book that we're reading out loud, I know I have probably about half the class doing that, half of both classes waiting to take the quiz on Paralit Price Manor. That's totally fine with me. I have no issues with that. My goal is to finish this spooky book by Halloween, and I'm not going to be here on the 31st, so I'm planning on hopefully finishing it by next Thursday, and then students can take the quiz on it independently on either Thursday or Friday. If your child does not pass, if they do not get their 5 points or 6 points or 7 points or 8 points from Paralit Price Manor, your child will probably need assistance with managing their time to read something else. Every single year, I find that a lot of students are not the best at time management at this age, and they just need assistance with it. They need help with planning out a book that they're going to read, figuring out what book they're going to read, and then keeping them on track with reading it. So I do find that most students at this age need that assistance. They need that help choosing a book that's on their level and appropriate for them to read. They need help being reminded to sit down and read a little every night. Some students need help some students even need help with remembering what was in the book and what was happening in the book. So some students every few chapters will need to either write down a summary or will need to talk to you and summarize the book out loud, just to make sure that they're not forgetting what was in the book. Please make sure you're checking in with your child to make sure they have a book and they're working towards their goal. I would even, if your child is planning on doing Paralit Price Manor, check in with them. Make sure that you ask them, hey, how are you planning on getting your RP goal this quarter? And if they say Paralit Price Manor, that's totally fine. But I would say beginning of November, November 1st, November 2nd, November 3rd, I would double check with your child and say, hey, did you take that quiz on Paralit Price Manor? What score did you get? How many points do you have? And just do that quick check in with them. And if your child says, oh, I got 100% on it, I got 8 points, I'm good for quarter two, then they're fine. But if your child is also hesitant to answer you and they say, oh, I didn't pass it, then you need to then sit down with your child and say, okay, what book are you going to now read instead? What book are you going to independently read? And how are you going to work towards your 5 point goal? You can always check your child's scores on quizzes and how many points they have using the Renaissance Place app. So it is on Clever. It's a big green R. If you click on Renaissance Place, you'll click on the big green R. You'll then click on Accelerated Reader, which is a little orange box, and then you're in Renaissance Place. Up at the top, you will see a progress button. That's where you can click on to see how many points they have and how they've been scoring on their quizzes. It will not show the questions to go over them with your child, unfortunately. I do think that this is RP's way of cutting down on cheating by not making the questions accessible once the quiz is over. So it can be a little frustrating to not be able to see what questions your child was asked and go over the answers with them. But unfortunately, that is not something that I'm able to fix in any way. I can't change that in any way because that is just how the program is. Students also cannot take a RP quiz outside of school hours. So there's two reasons for that. One, the RP app actually shuts down after school hours end. You're able to go on and take a look at books, and you can take a look at the reading level, and you can take a look at points, and you can take a look at how many points your child has, but you can't actually start a quiz after school hours. And then the second reason you can't do it is because I also put a password on all RP quizzes. So when students are ready to take a quiz on a book, they will sign into RP, they will get the book pulled up, and then they will bring their laptop over to me to ask for the password. I usually, with a child, I just ask a few simple questions when they're ready to take a quiz. I double check the level. I see if it is within that 3.0 to 5.5 range. I ask them what the title of the book was, and then I ask them when they read it. Because RP is not something that is done every single school year, every year I do find that students try to take RP tests on books that they have read in previous years. I understand why students do it because they don't want to currently have to read anything, or if it's the competitive aspect of it, then they're just wanting to get the most points. But the idea of Renaissance Place is that you are taking quizzes on books that you have just finished reading. So I do usually check in with students to figure out, when did you read this book and what level is it, and then what is the title of it. And if students are giving me questionable answers to those, I do usually dig a little bit deeper to try to figure out what's going on with it. But there is a password that only Miss Douthit knows. Not even Miss Urquhart or Miss McCullough know it. So only Miss Douthit knows the password to be able to allow students to take a quiz on a book. Students are allowed to take quizzes and earn points first thing in the morning from 7:10 to 7:50. Even if students don't start their day with me, if they start their day in Miss Urquhart's homeroom, Miss Urquhart knows that students are starting Renaissance Place, and she is totally fine with them doing their quizzes first thing in the morning if they need to. We have that time from 7:10 to 7:50. We also work on those additional websites in the morning, like iReady and Reflex and Legends of Learning and Quill and all of that type of stuff. So we're just adding in another website where students can work on it first thing in the morning. And that will be, students can take a quiz between 7:10 to 7:50. And then they're also able to take a quiz during independent time in reading class with me. So we do about 20-25 minutes of independent class time every single day with each group of students. So I've got about 20-25 minutes of independent time with each group. And that should be plenty of time for students to get logged in, pull up the Renaissance Place quiz, and take it. If, going back to the like passing rate and stuff, if your child fully understood the book that they read, a quiz is only going to take them maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. It's not going to take them long. The longest quizzes are only 10 questions for our level, for the 3.0 to 5.5 level. They do go up into 20, but those are, sixth grade level, seventh grade level books. So our 3.0 to 5.5 level books that we're taking quizzes on, they only have 10 questions. And again, if your child understood the book, they can easily recall what happened, and they're going to quickly go through those 10 questions. I just want to stress, I know that this video is getting long. Thank you for staying with me. I want to stress that Renaissance Place should not be something that causes anxiety or stress in your child. If your child is regularly reading at home and regularly reading in class and whenever they have that independent time, even if it's just 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes a day, if your child is regularly reading, then RP is something then RP is something that is not going to be hard for them. It is not going to be something that is challenging for them. It's going to be very, very easy for them. If your child does not regularly read at home, this is something that will need to be started so as not to fall behind. Every year, I have students wait until the last week, the last 2 weeks, And then I'm giving them reminders of, hey, you haven't gotten your points. Hey, you haven't gotten your points. And it causes this terrible panic in students. And they realize, I have to read a chapter book in a week, or I have to read a whole entire chapter book in 2 weeks. And it just causes, on top of all my other schoolwork, and it causes so much panic within students. And I don't want that to happen. I do not want students to panic like that. So if you are helping your child with managing their time, checking in with them every now and then to make sure that they have their Renaissance Place points, they will stay on track and that panic will not happen. Renaissance Place is also down at the bottom of the checklist, the coral, peachy, pink color checklist that's in your child's binder. Down at the very bottom, it does say RP points, so you can also use those little stars to help you with keeping on track and like checking off whenever your child gets an RP point. If you don't know where to start and you have no idea what book to recommend or what books to look for, I always do recommend the SSYRA books. So you would just Google SSYRA 2025 2026 for Florida, and they usually pop up really easily. You just want to make sure that you're looking at the ones for grades 3 through 5. Students don't have to read battle books. Every single year, I have kids think that those are the only books that I recommend. Absolutely not. I want kids reading. I really don't care what books you're reading as long as you're reading. Now, are the SSYRA books good? Sure. But I also think that there's a lot of other good books out there. I don't think that you have to read the SSYRA books. I do have a list of them up in the classroom. If students want to come in and take a look by the laptops, they can see little snippets of the books to get an idea of what the book is about. But they certainly do not have to read those books. But it is a good starting point if you're unsure of where to start. Most of them are really cheap on Amazon too. We have them in our library here at school, and I'm sure they'll have them in the public library for Hillsborough County and for this area, but they go like that. They go so fast. Anytime a student is in the library, they're getting checked out. So they don't stay for very long in the library, but they are really cheap on Amazon if you wanted to order one of them for your child. If your child showed interest in it and you wanted to order it for them. For students who love reading, this will be a very fun challenge for them. Every single year for student, I always find that a student could be doing really bad in my reading class, but if they love reading books, any books that they like to read, they love Renaissance Place. And if they're also a little bit competitive, they love the competitive aspect of it. So every week on Friday, I take a look at the Renaissance Place points and I update my bulletin board outside the classroom where everybody walks by and gets to see it. And I do competitions between the classes, so my homeroom and Miss Urquhart's homeroom. And then I also do competitions for the top 3 students in each homeroom. And I put how many points they have and I put their name and we do like little celebrations and stuff. So that can be really fun for students to see their name pop up on the board and try to compete and try to get more points than their peers. Um, so yeah, if your child loves reading just any book and loves to read, Renaissance Place is really great for them, and it can be a fun competitive aspect. I hope this video helps a little bit. I know that it ended up being a really long video, but still, I hope it helps at least a little bit to explain Renaissance Place. Of course, please reach out, send us an email if you have any questions or concerns, or if anything is still very confusing. Thank you for encouraging your child to read at home. We really appreciate it. I really do not want Renaissance Place to be anything that is stressing your child out. So please just encourage your child to read that 20, 30 minutes of a book that they enjoy every night, and it will be an easy thing for them to manage. Thank you.